Let's get closer to the spear. And we see our NPCs popping in. They're running around. By default, all NPCs operate off of a wonder basis. And if we look, when we look more into the AI, you'll see that you can set your NPCs up as different types. This is also in the documentation as well, but by default, any of the crowd AI defaults to wandering. So they'll spawn in, you see the different, the male and female types with different clothing on at different color values. The other type of spear that we actually have is for monsters, and I'm going to pick this field over here. And if we go into props and field monster spawners, we have a spawn spear for an actual monster. And what this will do, you can go into setup and load the monsters from your database by clicking here, and this will query your database. I have no monsters in my database, so obviously I am out of order with the things I'm trying to say. First, let's go make a monster for our database using our monster data that we brought over from our other example project. So we're going to go in here, and I am going to copy the config data from my fire sprite, open my database manager, and inside of monsters, we're going to create a new monster. I'm going to call it fire sprite. Give it the monster config data, which is this character data, well, his actor data. And this also just uses the class name. I'm going to give her some arbitrary values. Level 1, we can give her a drop rate of about 80%, a rare drop rate of 10%. We can actually have her drop some weapons and armor and even some resources. And we're going to set the weapons as rare item drops and set their attack preferences to attack all. We have no race, so we're just going to call her an elemental type and add that race. We have to make a class for her, and we're going to save this here and go make the class. I'm actually going to show an example of what I was talking about earlier. So instead of having to type a lot of things in, I'm going to go and edit the test class, cancel it, and create new. That way the default settings copy over. And I'm going to name this fire sprite. I have to give it a class link. And in here, inside of classes, there should be a fire sprite class, which again just shows the animation blueprint that we're going to link. It can be expanded later for anything that you have class specific that needs to be housed in a configurable, swappable manner. So I'm going to paste this in, fire sprite underscore C. And let's dumb her attack down a little bit. Vitality, let's make it about a 5. I'm actually going to test her against the other character class that we have. So it takes about 10 hits to kill, and it will take her about 10 hits to kill the actual other character, and it will actually take 10 hits to die as well. I'm going to, can't do it that low. I'm going to actually modify this a little bit differently. By default, the linear information is set to, the stat information is set to linear, which means it's just a straight line between the starting point and end point. Here we're going to add some logs, so that way it will flatten out first and then start going up. So we're just going to do a regular natural log, and we're going to curve this up. I'm going to select natural logs for all of these and curve the power up for the actual log. And you can actually use the log power mod to up and lower and the actual learning curve or power of the actual stat that you're increasing. So that way, if you want some stats to be stronger than others or progress higher than others, you can use a higher log. Well, technically use your lower log to get a steeper change, and then a higher log number to get a lower rate of change. So I'm going to leave that at that for right now. Change the rest of these to logs, natural logs. Just push these up. So now that we have everything at a natural log, our HP is lower. We can simulate this. It would, she's really weak. It will take about 79 hits to actually kill the other character. So we can up her attack, update her vitality. That's too much. Still 2 hits to kill and 1 hit to kill the target. That's because the attack is 44. Of course that will. Make the attack 5. Let's simulate this. 40 hits to kill, 2 hits to die. Increase my defense. Bring my defense up to 8. 5 hits to kill. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a level 1 character. Don't want it too hard. We may want her to be a little bit stronger so she can actually do more damage on the actual enemy. Okay, 12 hits. So if you have a good group of monsters together, you probably could die fairly easily. I'm gonna bring it down to a 6. Do another simulation. So 27. So you have to have a good, strong group of level 1 monsters clumped on the actual enemy to do an overbearing amount of damage to be able to kill them. So that way the monster's easy, but it's not too easy. It takes 5 hits to hit. 5 hits to kill. So that's almost 1 full combo for depending on what character you're using. It's probably like 2 combos, 1.5 combos to actually kill a monster. It's just something that you play around with and see what kind of skill and attack skill that you want, depending on how the person that you're actually using attacks. If they do 1 hit per swing or 2 hits or something like that, that will change how you need to scale the monster information down to make everything balanced. So with this said, I'm going to save this. We have our character, we have the animation, we have the monster that we need to go in, link the class. So the class information is here with a little bit of modified stats because we changed their base stats. So if we do it again, now she takes 6 hits to kill and 27 hits to kill the enemy. So that didn't change much, but she's a little bit harder to kill because we modified her stats over here. The standard attack distance is used for non-trace type of hits. Um, for the actual just default, all my hits are just length and cone based detection. I don't have any trace or any kind of complicated hit mechanism to be able to check to see if the sword just barely grazed the target or anything like that. It's just pretty plain and simple, hopefully easily to understand type of thing. I'm gonna save this out, and I should have everything I need for this character now. So I'll close that. Now let's try to load our monster list, and we actually have monsters now. So we're gonna load that fire sprite in. We're gonna cache this information because even though we have data inside of the data row, this information, from what I've noticed, is not 100% solid. Sometimes it will be there, sometimes it will actually be a null, and the item, either the pointer will drop out or something clears the table. Even though I'm not calling anything to clear the table, maybe garbage collection comes and eats my row. But that being said, I have load select the character, and of course you give me a crash of unknownness. Let me try this again. It actually aired out in SQL. Something tells me that it was a issue of clearing the information from when we actually didn't have characters in there. So it's probably resulting from the creation of a query with no information returned. Even though I know I'm clearing my variables, that may be the issue, but I'll check in that to make sure that that issue is taken care of. And since I didn't save, I think we lost all of our NPC spawn spears that we had there, but that's okay. All right, so we've loaded everything here. And yes, we lost the majority of everything we had. One thing I will have to drop back in here is the navmesh, because otherwise they won't be able to move around when we spawn them in. Navmesh bounds, large number, even larger number. And that should be good for right now. It looks like it's over the city too, so that'll work. This time I am going to save. And if we come over here, we are going to drag that out our information, blueprints, props, and monster spawner. Come through here, load the information from the database. One thing I forgot to mention before is the information from the database, since you can have a lot of monsters and things like that in your library, depending on the type of game you're making. I have a lower bounds and upper bounds for the high and low level limit, and right now it's just defaulted between 0 and 5 to be able to bring those monsters from the database out, so that way you're not loading the entirety of your monster information from the database. So now we're going to bake, and it still happens. Okay, break. Let's see where I'm going. We're loading battle information. Our battle information comes in. We have our attributes. We have a pointer. We're storing this into battle data. Everything looks normal. Our drop rate is not there, but we're not even loading that yet. We have a class structure, that's correct. And it should just be converting this into a number. So I am not sure why this is complaining. So obviously we have something wrong in the matrix. So I'm about to find out and take you through getting through this issue. If I have time, I have 4 minutes to see if we can get through this issue. And it seems like we have a query issue on bringing in the class information for the monster data. To be able to look this up and do things like that with the actual, to query the database, I use a program called SQL Browser, which allows you to open, modify, and change anything in your database that you need to change. With this one, we need to debug an issue, so this helps us do queries on our database to find out what's going wrong, because obviously we must be getting something that's not a valid data type in that conversion of the number from our query, and it's crashing us out. Or at least that's what I'm assuming is wrong, because usually that's the only thing that will, you know, cause issues like that. So now we have our query. We can paste our query from our debug in here and run it. We actually get nothing back for the class. Did I not save the class? Let's see. If we look in our data, we can go to our classes, and we have our classes. Our class ID is incorrect, it seems. Because our information is here for the character. We have our curve information and all that. So now if I go over to wherever we're getting our class ID in, that is completely incorrect. So here's where we're getting our class ID. So we should be able to run this and bring in our class ID. All right, so now if we load mainland, let me increase my speed, and I don't care where I go, I just need to drop the spawn spear in to make sure that we're bringing our data in correctly. Go down to content, blueprints, and props, and inside here, let's load our information again. We're gonna set this, and now when we copy the information, if we work backwards, monster ID is 1. That's correct. Our class data is sprite, so that's correct. Let's go forward. It looks like we did not come in here to get our actual monster NPC. And I'm out of time.